Okay, let's open this meeting of the Cold Spring Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm Eric Worth, the chair. And with me is Billy Fields, Mary Ann Remy, John Martin. 4 members, so we have a quorum tonight. 1 member, Robert Ferrero, is absent. 1 item on the agenda, and that's a workshop for 25 Fair Street. Beth, would you like to come to the table? And
Sure.
We have with us the architect, Beth Ziegler. So at a workshop, we just review the application for completeness and correctness and make sure that all issues are clear. So why don't you start by just giving us an overview of what's involved? Not a complete defense of the project, but just
Okay.
enough to orient us and
Sure.
help us understand the plans.
We're on the site. We are going to remove an existing carport and build a new garage, as well as remove an existing swimming pool, some miscellaneous sheds, and also build a new 1-story addition to the house. The property has a pretty significant grade change. So the locations of the new addition for the addition living space and garage are in the setbacks. The property is oddly shaped and it's a flag lot. So I would like you to confirm that we correctly interpreted the front yard setback, which we weren't quite sure it went as conservative as we thought. That makes sense.
Did you say flag lot?
Like this, see,
Oh,
like upside down flag.
got it.
Sort.
Is that what flag lot means? Just that it's got a,
The shape.
That's my understanding,
Okay.
but I could be using that as just a,
That's
I
pretty
mean,
accurate.
using the term incorrectly. So it is a very odd shaped lot and it has a very steep change in plane. So, the person who purchased it, would like to be able to expand the footprint, but also on 1 level, just so for aging in place. So that is why we have located the addition where it is. And the garage, while somewhat in the front yard, it's also attached to the house, and really there's nothing that can be seen from the street except a small view, which will now be the addition, which will be a stone wall. Everything will be 1 story, the new addition. I believe that's it.
with these irregular shaped lots, sometimes it's hard to know what's the front yard, what's the side yard and so on. But it looks like, yeah, this looks like what you have here makes sense.
Okay.
Look at it more closely for the hearing and just make sure that we correctly identify which are the front yards.
So I did have one other question, which wasn't on the referral. The code calls out that you can't have a garage in front of a house. So I don't know if this pertains to this, because the garage is connected to the house. And you could construe the front of the house to be where the entrance is, which is on the south side. So it opens a lot of questions, and I just want to be sure that if that is an issue that wasn't flagged by the building inspector and it comes up later, that we have addressed it.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll have to think about that and check the code. And it's not something we can just necessarily do tonight, but by the time of the hearing, in the course of the hearing, we can get make sure that that's fully, and then that would become, if it happens that this configuration is a violation of that provision, then we would need a new variance, but that'd just be something else to talk about. So the,
So, go ahead. So is the garage currently, if you look down the driveway, it's straight ahead, right? The garage, no.
That's correct. It's,
Okay.
it's. Gosh, and then on the key plan, we show the demo of it. It is, and you can see it, let me see its post. You can also see it on the survey, which is the last sheet. And, on sheet 6, you can see the middle, number 2, photograph shows. Carport.
Right. Number 2 shows the carport to the east, right? The new one?
Yes, yeah.
That's proposed where you're gonna have the new one, correct? Like.
Yes, that's
spot,
correct.
okay.
Yes,
So currently, there's nothing there at this moment, right?
that's correct.
Okay. Again, it's all one level.
The garage.
Well, most of the structure, but
Everything, the existing house has a pitched roof, so it's 1.5
Yeah.
stories. And then the new additions, the garage and the addition are both 1 story, flat roof.
I was wondering what's down that driveway.
I'll tell you, the view is unbelievable when you ever get out there. You might ask if you could go have a look at it, the side view. So you can better decide what's being asked and recognize and understand the.
And also, if you're interested to see that the steep grade is one of the reasons why we are proposing to keep everything at the upper level, because you couldn't have a continuous house if you, if there's the houses here, there's a very steep grade and then a lower flat level. But to expand the house, it's almost impossible to do that unless you really built the house up pretty high on that lower level to have it continuous.
So you're saying there's just a certain amount of flat surface, where the structures could go, everything sort of tails off. Does it drop off, to the south as well as to the north and to the west?
It drops, so basically this is 1 level here
Okay.
and then it drops pretty steeply off.
Right
So
to the
this-
north, yeah.
This is down here, the north and the
And-
west.
and it drops off right here.
Yes.
And but what is it like, right? Well, currently the garage is here.
Yeah, so
okay.
this is all
Oh, that's
flat.
level, okay.
So that's,
So it drops off, west and, south.
Not the.
No, sorry, west and north, north.
What's the difference in elevation?
I would say probably 10 feet. But I can find that for you if that's helpful.
Just curious.
I don't suppose there's a graphic map of the area. That would be a big benefit to the board to understand what you're dealing with.
And Google Maps, right? Topographic and, with the gradients?
Yeah, showing
Yeah.
elevation, like,
Gradients, right,
you know,
okay.
changes in elevation. I thought the E parcel had that. I'm looking at E parcel right now. I thought that was one of the optional views.
believe you can find it on there. But that might also be a different municipal or different.
Yeah, here are the layers. I don't immediately see, but when I first dialed it up, it was. If I turn off, I think maybe if I turn off address points. In any case, that would potentially strengthen your presentation. You know, from Google or wherever, if there was just some.
If we can reference to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you could show us what you're dealing with, as far as available surface.
But to the west is
Water, well, the railroad,
the railroad or,
The railroad.
yeah?
yeah, not the plant. I don't think the plant's there, is it? No, no, I mean, the garage plant is probably a little bit further north.
It's right in here somewhere. So,
Ah, I got it.
I guess we are abutting the garage, right? This is
Okay.
the
Yeah. couldn't really remember.
municipal
That's
lot
right.
right here.
Right, to the north, but you're really not terribly up against it.
It's like the backside of
Yeah.
it.
Right.
It's behind Riverview. Yep.
Yes.
So also, if you could get a Google map that shows sort of the several houses around that house, and it gives a good understanding of the layout, and possibly photographs from the house, like the building of the house, looking south, so we can see what kind of vegetation, since the proposal appears to be coming right up against the property line to the south, correct? Southern property
To
line.
the west, yeah, the west and the south, yes. So the one photograph that shows that the best is
Oh, there are a few here.
number 7. We have some aerial photographs.
Okay,
Um,
well, aerial? Oh, yeah, aerial's on 7, yeah, ZBA 7, okay.
The rear property is Metro, property line, is at Metro North, so then it actually drops off
Right.
quite precipitously to the tracks.
Okay, so this is interesting, this view from the south looking north. So you have the cul-de-sac, the upper area
Mhm.
cul-de-sac, and you can actually see the back of the house that you're.
That's correct, yes, you can see
So there's
the
the-
pitch through
there's
the
the house.
carport and the house.
This is the house.
Okay.
Campbell House right here. So you're south here looking north. And so does there appear to be, what kind of vegetation do you recognize, do you know that's there on that net north, border? Southern
This
border.
one here is with, there's a large.
Okay, that's it, right? Okay,
There's the
that's,
hedge,
that's right.
from that, then you know,
Okay.
I forget, what's that up there called? They have that communal sort of backyard,
Right,
which is this kind of triangular pie shape.
right.
And then there's a stone wall, and then there are, a hedge, which is a buffer between properties.
Well, it's good to see, you've got some photos, in the winter time, so it gives you even a clearer picture of how everything sets up.
And it's helpful for you to see the site as well. We can arrange that too.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't go there as a board. You wouldn't be able, unless we would have to, put it in the newspaper. So maybe independently, we can go, just if anybody has any, wants to get a perspective of what it looks like.
Yeah, just as long as, you can let the owner know.
No, we would contact you.
Yeah.
Say we would contact you.
Or just wandering around.
Just.
It's hard to be drifting all the way down that trail.
Yeah, can't be just passing by.
Yeah, I see the code provision that you mentioned about garages. So this is in 134-7D, which is general requirements for residential district. Garages shall not be permitted forward of the front plane of the principal structure. So,
Which is, if the front yard were to be Fair Street, it would be in front of it.
right, and so, well, all these terms are kind of interdependent, like what defines the front yard? Well, that's the part that's in front of the front plane of the house. So it's like, there's a cascading set of definitions, and it starts with, first you establish the front plane of the house. That determines, then first you establish the orientation of the house. What's the front of the house? Then once you have that, then you have that front plane. That tells you where the front yard is. Then it also tells you where the garage be positioned. That's my tentative interpretation of this.
And then if we were to try to think of exceptions of why if we were to think that we would be granting a variance as to that rules, assuming we get to that and we make a finding that front yard is to the east, we could also look at the fact that the properties, the lines are very unusual,
Right.
that you don't see this.
It's not square, it's not rectangular. So Beth, you
And
said
it's remote, and it's,
there's the entrance.
The entrance to the house now and will remain on the south side of the house. So you come down this driveway, you turn into the garage. Right now, you drive all the way here
Into the carport.
into the carport, you enter the house on the south side.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I would like to then say if we determine that the front yard is the south side, then we're asking for a different set of variances, and then the garage would need no variance, but we wouldn't need the front yard variance,
Right.
so.
yeah, see, that's funny, it changes everything.
I mean, is it advisable for us to just take the site plan and make this the front yard as well, so we have two versions?
What's the definition of front yard?
Let's check that. A yard, comma, front. Space on a lot between the front lot line and the line described by the front face of the principal building. So the space between the front lot line and the line described by the front face of the building. So
Okay.
what determines the front lot line? Well,
This is the front face of the building,
must be,
isn't that what it's indicating?
well, let's go to lot line. Front lot line, a line separating a lot from a street. So we have a contradiction. The front lot line separates the lot from the street, so that's the way it's drawn here. But then the front yard is between the front lot line and the front face of the house. So what if the house is turned and it's not facing the street? There's a contradiction there, and that's what we have here.
Or can we interpret this first 25 feet as the front yard? And then which I
Well,
don't
that's
think,
interesting.
I mean, there's a
That's an
lot of
interesting
different
reading, yeah.
interpretations.
Plus you have to replant that asphalt as grass.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of questions that we just want to make sure that we're covering all of the
Yeah,
options.
So, yeah, front lot line, it would make sense because, when you have two, front yards, it's usually for the fact that they both face the street.
corner lot.
They both lines face the street.
The street is always like the determining factor. What's the front of the lot?
Yeah.
It's the street.
So
But then what happens if the house is turned 90 degrees?
I think it's, well, again, because I think then you're asking, like you said, they were talking about the face of the house to the lot line.
Exactly.
But I just think that, again, we're dealing with a lot of peculiarities. And I'm gonna read it, I'll read it several times over, but I believe we'd probably be more correct to focus on the fact of the front yard being from the street, no matter how the house is facing.
The front door of this house is here.
On
now,
the
in the
south
plan.
side, in existing and the new,
Here?
yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Either one of these essentially. Right? You can come in this way and you can come in this way.
Yes. Yes, you
So
can.
you're either facing,
Yeah, you can.
right, so
That
the
could,
front door of your house is facing
it could be,
both south and
and
east.
yes.
but it's not the door it's the front plane of the house, not the door that's the decisive.
Well, how do you, what is the definition of the front plane?
Well, terms used are front face,
Okay,
but that's can be ambiguous if the house is irregular shaped.
Right.
It's the frontmost part, right? Typically, that's what, even if it has an irregular front, there's always one part that moves forward. That's the front plane, or front face.
well, when you look at here's an example for, right nearby, that upper cul-de-sac area. Now, how do those houses facing the street? Are they all facing the street or are they angled off of it? I thought I saw one of the buildings.
Those pie slice lots,
Yeah.
But they all actually have frontage on the street. And the
They are
street
actually
kind
on the
of
street, each one
lines,
with the
yeah,
front facing,
Mhm.
okay.
They follow the street in alignment.
Well, we can, so let's think about this and, you know, read the code individually and just try to get a handle on this, and then we may end up with a position where in either case, either reading, we have variances needed. So one group of variances in one case, another different but somewhat overlapping set of variances in the other case. So, we may end up just saying, you know, our decision applies whichever reading one chooses to give. You know, we're, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another, two baskets of variances, and we just decide, make a decision that applies whichever to both.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, normally that, when you say flagpole shaped, lot, normally that's just an easement, not that you wouldn't necessarily own that strip. You know, that's usually an easement across somebody else's property. And the house is basically landlocked, you know, so it's, you know, there was a transaction that went on that somebody actually sold that piece of land, so the person, they can actually reflect that as part of the lot. So it is a landlocked lot in essence, in part, even though it does have the driveway coming out. But then you always want to have an understanding of, and some consistency of like, that the front lot should actually be facing the street.
Yeah, I think that seems fairly firm, that we should regard the street frontage.
Especially when it comes to corner, you know, two fronts, you know, on a corner.
Corner, yeah, that further reinforces that, but then Billy makes a great point, why is it's the first 25 feet of the driveway that's the front yard?
I mean, if you look at the,
Oh, because they don't actually own it.
They do.
they do.
It's-
the
Oh, there's
property
a
line
little
is-
sliver. I'm saying.
Right.
But if you look at the last page and you were to call out what the front yards are of the adjoining properties, which is really clear. Well, except the other house on this lot does not face the street. It sits way back here. But I think it's very clear that, you know, you would call this the front yard for these houses. And this is technically a property.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the house on this lot actually faces south,
That's
Right?
another right angle, or right turn, 45-degree turn.
right?
And so does the one to it, so does the houses you're pointing out to the north.
This, which I'm,
The house that sits north of the lot
Yeah.
faces south.
Yep.
yes, it's
Yeah.
correct.
That's
But
right.
it's not looking at the river, it's
That's right.
looking,
It's strangely not looking at the river.
Yeah.
well, I mean, you know, choices.
Well, this house as it is doesn't really have many river views until we kind of open it up, so they're both strangely situated.
So it's a good point. So you raise a good point there. We just have to think about how we could just always just simply say this is a lot with peculiarities that other lots don't necessarily face.
Okay, well, we'll talk about this in more depth at the hearing.
Which page is the correct page?
There two, there's one is the accessory building and one is the main principal building.
Oh, I got it, okay, thank you.
So as far as coming to the public hearing, and we won't know exactly which way this is, how the interpretation is going to go, is this something that we prepare a second proposed site plan showing the front yard being different, the set, yep, you know, front, back, side?
I don't think you need to, unless
Okay.
other board members disagree.
We could just amend what we have.
We can, in the meeting itself, or the hearing itself, we can be clear about what's at stake. It's really just, we have to define the nature of the variance, like exactly how many feet are being asked for each thing.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I don't think it would you could efficiently do new drawings, because we just don't have a clear enough idea. Like, if we go with the reading, the front of the driveway is the front yard, that changes everything too.
Yes,
I mean, there's multiple
okay.
The
possibilities.
other thing is, how many copies of, the plans eventually get filed away? One copy, right? So what we do is just, mark it up accordingly, and just sign it, as the chair,
Yeah.
like, this is how it
But
was
it's
interpreted.
not
But the-
unusual for, in the course of the hearing, for new information to come out, or changes to happen, agreement to be done. So, the, the plan used, consulted during the hearing is never guaranteed to be the last word.
Well, this was an interesting case,
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
to say.
Well,
I would love to see the topographical change. I mean, if there's some sort of document that can actually show that.
I can see,
There
there's
might be
not,
local-
there's not a survey, but I can see, I think we should be able to do GIS mapping and see at least 2-foot contours.
Yeah.
And we could also, do a drone photo over it, so you can see much more clearly. That would be a simple way of doing it as well.
Yeah, I'm feeling that the drone photo would look just like the photos that you have, which is like, yeah, that drops away, but you don't have I
Mhm.
can't determine a reference
Yeah.
of what that drop is.
Yeah, that's true.
So seeing it with the contours,
Sure.
that I think would be better.
There's a couple of pictures that show it, like,
No, yeah, but what I'm saying is like, looking at those pictures, I can't tell what that slope is.
Yeah, it looks.
I mean, it
Gentle.
could be gentle and it could be like, wow, that's really steep. I just, it's not something I can tell. What is that?
an orange wedge.
I'm sorry, what are you looking at?
The orange wedge on the,
Overlap area.
just curious as to what is that? I mean, I see other lands, but like,
Is it a incongruity in the deeds? I'm not sure.
maybe that's what it
I'm,
is.
That's not uncommon around here.
Oh, see, that's interesting. So that is the part of the house that you say is next door, that running facing south, right? The buildings, that was,
Well, no, that building is like basically
wow.
there.
Well, this I've not seen before either. How is it described? This is overlap area.
This is other lands. Formerly.
C note 7.
Yeah. There's no seven.
area.
oh, yeah, Seagulls in the candles.
Oh.
Sounds like the makings of a feud.
Yeah,
Wow.
over a tiny pie shaped
Wow.
slice of land.
That's right, that's my pie shape. My slice of the pie, yeah.
Okay, so they both have it included in their properties, so that's, yeah, good point.
Heart shaped.
I guess that's a no man's land, it's a,
Yeah, the frame shed and the open metal shed, the two out back that you're gonna be getting rid of.
Yeah.
That's obviously on the slope of the property. Right?
Unless it's the bottom.
Or is
We
this,
say it
the
flattens
slope
out.
behind the pool and not so much behind?
The slope is really here. So you couldn't build the house out, like it's here. It just dropped down, and then at this property line, then it drops down. It starts to go down pretty steeply to the train. So those are, sort of the ramshackle kind of sheds that are, it's hard to tell if they were just kind of falling this way, or it's because of the slope, or it's because they're just in such partial.
are they partly off the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
And those will be gone.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen like a dispute filtering on
On a survey map, yeah, right. Brady and Watson.
He gets paid twice.
You know, another question is the addresses of the neighboring properties that, you know, that you will be sending notices to.
Yeah.
And I went over your list in your application. It looks complete to me, with two exceptions. The Village of Cold Spring and MTA have their own property that is adjoining
Oh,
this property. And even though they are not people, I think
Okay.
it's still, it's legally, prudent to send them notices so that there won't be any question.
okay.
The Village of Cold Spring, just address it to Village Hall,
Mhm.
and then the MTA, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's, they find an address, so send them a notice. But they own that whole strip to the west,
Mhm.
and then,
Okay,
Cold Spring owns to the north side. There's a
Right.
shared boundary there.
right, okay.
Otherwise, the addresses look complete and sufficient for notice.
And you will email the letter
Yeah.
that we send
Within
to.
a few days, I'll
Okay.
email, the notice itself.
Mhm.
And, it, only has to be mailed no less than 10 days before the hearing.
Mhm.
And that, gets us to the question of the hearing. Are the board members, feel that the application is ready for a hearing?
I think so. I thought just to mention, we put the sign out in front too.
Yeah, there'll be the sign. That'll be,
I think my only thought is, not knowing what we are going to determine as being the front yard or the side yard seems, a detail that we probably have to settle before we have the actual hearing.
it would be nice to, yes,
I mean, that will clear up what variance we're
Exactly.
requesting and,
Yeah, instead of getting sort of stuck in the middle of the hearing.
Right, right.
Our decision on that.
because in worst case scenario, it might require a legal opinion.
but Eric, from your question, I think besides that, it
I think
seems
it's right.
like it's complete, yes.
Well, why don't we see if we can decide it now? We've established that, so we have front lot line. um, Front lot line separates lot from the street. Okay. Corner lot may have more than one front lot, so that's very clear. The street is kind of a determining definitional, that makes sense.
To the front of the structure,
Because-
in essence, even though it may not be.
Well, it doesn't get into, we're just talking about lot here.
Okay.
So we've established the front lot line.
Okay.
Then we have, front yard. Space between the front lot line, okay, we know what the front lot line is, and the line described by the front face of the principal buildings. Okay, so, what you do if the front face is turned away from the street?
This, so the lot line doesn't separate the house from the street, it separates this parcel from its neighbor.
Correct. That
That
A,
makes it more confusing to me
well, a lot line does, there is a lot line there.
at the end of the driveway.
Well, the one on the south side, there is a lot line that separates two properties.
Yes, but. Mm-hmm. But the,
Also, the front face of the house now, with this additional lot.
But, so this line separates this lot from the lot in front of it, and then there's the street. I don't know if
Oh,
that
this
matters.
line? You mean, which line?
I can't tell
Okay.
between the two.
So
Yeah. This line,
that line, okay,
because this is another piece of property.
all right, exactly, it does not,
It doesn't separate this piece of property from the street. It separates this piece of property
okay,
from its neighboring property.
absolutely true, excellent point. So the only property line, the only lot line that separates this property from the street is this one, this little one here at the end of
Right,
the
at the
driveway.
end of the driveway.
Right, so under the terms of the
Okay.
definition, this is the front lot line, this little, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that means the front, yeah, and well then, I mean, we don't have, we have a contradiction. There's no way to fit the definition of front yard into what we have here. So we have to, no amount of interpretation is going to find an answer because it just, the reality doesn't fit the language in the code.
You know, when you invited me to be a part of this, board, you didn't tell me that all of the first cases would be completely weird and out of the ordinary.
Well, this,
They're all
it's
weird.
what makes it interesting anyway. But this is probably one of the more unusual ones with regards to lots,
Yeah.
dynamics.
I think it would be very hard to call that the lot line just simply by mere fact of it's the driveway. I think that's gonna be tough to, I mean, as far as it's gonna trip
Counterintuitive, but
entirely.
we can't, we have to go by the language of the code. And we can't, it's unfair to, an applicant to like deprive them of the language of the code just because to us subjectively it seems far-fetched.
Right.
We have to stick to the language. Um,
So then so go right ahead from everything that's been stated. What Mary Ann brought up. Again, I do think that we have to stick from what you had said, with the front line, which borders the street, and it would be where the driveway is, because it is a piece of property, no matter what.
we shouldn't be prejudiced by the fact that it's very narrow. I mean, so what? That's not critical. This is a front, think of the property, this property line is just it's meandering. Only part of it is on the street. And that's gotta be the front lot line.
So part of the exception or the for variance in this case is that the other portions of the easterly property lot line are separating that from another piece of property and not really flush to the street. Right. So it really, it sort of takes the property out. You do have to get a point of reference, and the point of reference is the front of the street. And but for the fact that most of the front of the building itself, or I should say the property itself that would normally face the street, does not exist. It's really part of another piece of property. So that this, so what does it do with regards to facing the house then? And what does it do with regards to the garage? I think for the fact that the garage isn't necessary where it's going to be placed, it's not going to be flush or direct line to the road, to the front lot line. It's going to be sort of hidden behind another piece of property. So it's not like, I think the idea of the code is to make sure the garages aren't put right up in front, and ahead of the building. And so that you'd be seeing it from the walkway or the road or something like that. But in this case, because you have such a narrow lot line and the garage is going to be sort of tucked in behind this separate, I think that makes it different. It separates
It does
it.
make a difference, and that's building on the point that Mary Ann made about this is actually not this part here is really not on the street, and it would be unfair to call this the front lot line as if it were on the street.
But also just to keep you're also staying consistent though with the fact that, where your front lot line is. You know what I'm saying? We're staying with the front of the driveway being the front lot line.
Right.
And
So that make this the side, part of the side, this whole snaking thing? Is this, that all side there? Could be.
well, it's funny, see, well, that can go two different ways. I mean, the funny thing, yeah, I would say yes. I would answer yes, because it's not actually, continuous to the street. And it's separated by another piece of private property.
Imagine a hypothetical, a less extreme case, the parallel, here's the street. And then you've got like that. It would be easy, it'd be quite natural to say, this is the front, this is the side, and this is the side, this is the rear. Even though this has a crook in it, a couple of bends, it's still the side, because clearly this is the front and the front ends here.
Ah,
So what we have here is just a more extreme version of this,
Yeah, the side,
but fundamentally the same thing.
right.
got it.
So
Yeah,
all
that
of
makes
this is
sense.
inside. It's not on the street.
So it's not, the way to look at it is not contiguous with the street,
Right.
to a straight
And
line.
potentially making that determination based on the code language,
Yeah.
then what you currently have on this proposed site plan as being the front yard setback is actually the side yard setback.
For where the garage will be, yes,
I mean, if I could,
Correct.
if I could.
I would say so. I would,
Show you the logic of Eric, the reason that a corner lot has two front yards is because it has two
Two
street
street faces,
facing.
right.
And this,
Has no street facing.
well,
I
it
mean,
has
except
a
for
very
that,
small
except for the-
street facing,
right.
but I think that's the determination of the front lot line, it's separating from the street, from the public as the front, and so this has a very small front.
yeah, that would
I
be
mean, that
consistent,
makes-
that would make it,
I mean-
that's an example,
Follow through with the logic
Yeah,
of
the
that.
corner lot, I think it's an important touchstone here.
Yeah, and just so that we're consistent, I think it's a very rational, way of interpreting it,
Okay, so,
Now, so we don't have to so much worry about the garage if it's going up against the side, except for the spacing that's between the side yard setback. And the other thing is, again, where's the front of the house?
well, that's, the front of the house is clear. I mean, that's just an architectural obvious. It has an entrance, it has the whole house is oriented in a certain way, and clearly this is the front. Right? I mean, if you were looking at the
is.
house, walking around the whole house, it's thinking,
Mhm.
where's the front? The
It's,
various clues would tell you, right?
But there's no definition that you see in there that forces you to say something has to be the front of the house.
I don't remember anything. If I do a search on the word front, which is typical modern, yes, building, okay, building front line of. The line of that face nearest the front line of the lot. So it's the line of the face nearest the front line of the lot. Okay, we know the front line of the lot, we've established that.
Mhm.
So the front of the building is, okay,
Mhm.
so entrance has nothing to do with it.
Right.
And it's where the pillars are, or where the portico is, has nothing to do with it.
Okay, we'll stay with that. Because there are other houses built the same way,
Yeah.
in a
Right turn.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, right, that's a very clear, the code is better than we thought, it does kind of envision this situation. So, that's the front. And, but then what's the front yard? Well, it's the way it's drawn here, because the front yard is between the front line of the house and the front property line. So that
Okay,
means,
so that is right.
so it's, the way it's drawn here is proper, it reflects the code, even though the entrance is not there.
But what is this then?
That's,
That's, if we're saying this is the.
that's your front yard,
Setback.
that's the front yard,
That's right.
here's the front lot of the building.
That's correct.
Or front face of the building.
Building, yeah, even though,
But wouldn't my setback then be this?
Yes, that's right.
And so this is,
Within
And
buildable,
this is side here,
so that's side,
side yard.
okay.
So your front yard setback is fine. You don't need a variance in the front because nothing's here.
Mhm.
You do need a side yard. No, you don't need a side yard variance either.
because you have
10
the
feet.
distance, you have
You
the
have
10
the
feet.
10 feet, but you do need a variance for garage being placed in front of the
Mhm.
front line of the building.
Yes.
And it's,
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, because even though even though it's closer to the side, property line, it is ahead of, it's
between
ahead of the
the
building,
three-
it's ahead of the face of the building. That's
it's
it.
standing, the garage is
Right.
standing between the street and the building, its main building, and that is potentially objectionable, which is why the code doesn't allow it, but here.
Nobody
obviously-
can see it from the road.
Right, in this, there's special circumstances here, obviously, so. And that's one variance for placement of garage, and then, the other side,
Side setback.
right, we need the side and rear, as you marked them, we do need.
So are there any other questions with how we're now looking at this? Have we covered just about everything? Because then at the same time,
I mean, I think that clears up the rest of the conversation that we.
right, and you have all those definitions down, you wrote them down that
Yes.
we were gonna be, okay, so the other thing is the applicant always has to show any other potential options to do on the, where to put these different things on the property, as
Oh, like,
because you would be giving a variance for the garage being in the front, but you'd have to then, because you're thinking of variance, you have, yeah.
so we'll be, so, yeah, Beth, he means the part of the hearing will be us asking you,
Sure.
aren't there reasonable alternatives you could do without getting a variance? And so it has to be very clear what the
Mhm.
code, what the variance.
No, yes, understood.
And with what you have to work with on your property and why, and because of the gradients and whatever.
Alright.
But
I do have one question. If the referral does not reflect the garage being in front between those plans, do we get a new referral?
No, but that
Does
happens quite a bit, is that the
Okay.
ZBA in going through the whole process ends up redefining the needed variances differently from what's in the referral. Just, it happens almost every time, actually.
Okay,
So,
I just didn't know if it had to then be re-referred.
well, our final decision in written form will,
have to explain this all the way.
exactly, it will say what the referral said, and then it
Mhm.
will say what we decided that's different, if anything.
Mhm. Okay,
I still like the overlapping lot that Billy pulled. That's been the most interesting.
A little bit archaic history comes into the present.
Well, we've got cases of surveys that show the house, the building, like off the property,
Yeah.
like extending off the property into someone else's property.
Which is sort of the same thing, except for the fact you could remove a building, but it's hard to remove one piece of land from another when both
Yeah.
are saying we own it. Yeah.
So, we've resolved that, which means that was the last question about before we could have a decide to have a hearing.
Right.
So, there is typically now a 4-week lag before the soonest hearing date, because
okay,
under the new code, we have to give a 30-day, we have to allow the planning board 30 days to comment before we can make a decision.
mhm,
And
okay,
now, get a calendar here. The planning board is meeting Thursday of this week, Thursday the 10th, second and fourth Thursdays. So, Abigail, if you can tomorrow refer this to Jesse, Chair of the Planning Board, just by telling him that it's been submitted and it's on the website, the application's on the website, and that he please add it to the agenda of the board for Thursday's meeting if possible. And then the 30-day clock starts ticking at that point.
Okay.
Which means, if we have the hearing as early as, November, second Tuesday in November would be the 12th. Are members available on November 12th, Tuesday? Anybody have any conflicts?
As of this moment, no.
Yeah.
Now, at least we
Tomorrow,
got,
it'd be
I
different.
mean, at least we have
Today?
5 members now.
Nope.
we have a
I'm
shot.
good. Yeah,
Yes.
all's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
So just to be, before I forget, so this is gonna be a side lot thing, a side yard.
Mhm.
So the one floor addition, that would be to the
Correct.
south
side and rear.
Yeah, just so.
and rear, yes.
And the garage, it requires no setback variance because we now interpret that as the side yard. But it does require a variance for being placed in front of the front plane of the building.
Yeah.
And we're interpreting the front yard as simply the little bit in front at the head of the driveway. That's the front yard. Beth, are you okay with the 12th of November for a hearing?
Yes, I am. And I will, I
Oh.
do not, think it will be a problem for the property owner, but I will confirm with them. and they'll be back the confirmation.
So if anybody wanted to see the property, I mean, I've seen it before, but it would help them understand what's going on. They would contact Beth or contact you.
I'll
to-
contact Beth. I think you all have her email address.
Right,
the
it should be on the app.
Yeah,
Can they contact you?
absolutely.
So I will make a motion that we have a public hearing on this application on November 12th at the regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, aye, I vote aye.
So the things we need are the gradient map, right?
If possible, and it's not a requirement, but
Well, it would help,
Yeah.
yeah, to understand,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's,
if it's possible.
you don't have to pay someone to create
we
it.
don't want to have to pay Beatty and Watson to create it.
Right,
but
no,
we
that's
can-
right.
We can, yes, we can do as much as possible to
Okay.
Right.
find the existing contours.
Right. And then maybe a site visit would
Mhm.
be just as well to, or, what it is.
And I'd be really interested in, potential alternatives, of why placing the garage there, why, I'm especially interested in that one.
I think
I'm
there's,
sure you're ready to.
yes, yeah. There's things that make certain sense with this property, the views, and then not keeping everything, the views of the other, property that's up above, kind of reducing the height of the existing building, so everybody maintains the same view. So that was really taken into consideration with placement of the buildings.
So the present 1.5 story, that's coming down?
The 1.5, the pitch.
Yeah, the pitch portion, yeah.
Portion here is coming down and it's gonna be flat, so it does bring the height of this pitch, carport down.
So
These
the,
are not very obtrusive, to be honest.
What?
Oh,
I mean, it's not very obtrusive, but I
Right.
wanted to keep it as much of that open view as possible.
Right.
So I will resubmit sheet 1 with what we spoke about today.
Okay, that's a good idea, so that the public
Yes.
who attends the hearing can have a correct drawing. So what you're calling front yard setback here around in the garage area will become rear or side yard rather.
Okay. And we'll get as much information about the site conditions, added to the package as well.
Beth, will you be able to submit that new drawing by tomorrow?
Sure.
Because,
I can do that.
and Abigail can post it in place of the existing one, and that will allow the planning board to have an up-to-date copies when they go to the website.
so we should keep these all together? You want us to keep these separate, or do you want us to keep these?
I also revise the performance sheets.
Well said.
Is that it for me?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything.
Thank you very much.
You know,
You educated us.
challenged us.
Well, I don't know. Something.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth.
Goodbye.
So let's, Abigail has kindly produced, her first minutes. And, I don't know if we want to read and approve them. I guess they're not, it's not final, because there's some highlighted. Are you?
Well, if there's any other changes, we can do it now.
Yeah, whichever you prefer. I did highlight some, because I was in the middle, I meant to not unhighlight them, but I think I have a copy actually. Yeah. But, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You good?
I'm
You like copy? You're looking for it, right?
I'm looking for it.
Okay, that's crazy. Excellent. That's stapled in active page. Yeah, so the highlighted areas, I was just a little bit concerned because I found another set of minutes that Karen might have sent to you sometime whenever. And they were kind of similar to this, but I didn't know if you needed additional comment for the resolutions or if you just needed clarity on if and when they were approved and if they were approved as amended or as submitted.
I'm looking at the agenda for the June 25 meeting, so it looks like we reviewed drafts of 3 resolutions, and then we reviewed 2 sets of minutes, and that was it, so. Well, on the agenda, it's 2 minutes for 5:14 and 5:28. But maybe in the actual meeting, we did something different.
Oh, I think actually, no, you're right. Because it was May 14th and, yeah, right?
So let's see here,
I'm more moved to accept the meeting minutes for the 14th.
or,
That's actually the last thing you guys just gave me next.
No? Oh, this is, wait.
No, that's the
Oh,
front page of mine.
Got it. Yeah. No, I have it. Yes. Yes, I see. First and last,
Yeah.
same. That's it.
Sure.
I wasn't hearing any of this, so I have no opinion about it.
This was a while back, right?
Yes, that was my first meeting.
Yeah, it was June 25th. Wow, I hardly remember it.
I don't remember.
Oh dear.
5 Furnace Street. What went on at 5 Furnace Street? If you can tell me?
that was,
Is that James' house?
yes, James Hartford.
Oh,
The addition in the back, a second story addition,
Okay.
which
Okay.
approached on a side yard. But this was just the resolution here.
So did you need this comment or?
I think if we end up approving the resolution with no changes, then all you have to do is say, the board reviewed the resolution
as written.
and voted to approve it as written.
And there were no changes made, as long as,
Right, as
yeah.
long as there were no changes, there's really nothing to say, no reason to summarize anything.
Yeah, so that's nice.
Because the only action,
Right.
your minutes are really about recording actions, and the only action was we approved minutes with no changes. Now, if we make changes, there might be an argument for summarizing key points if there were anything important. Under 41 Morris, I guess we did make a change. John identified specific addition of 22%.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure.
This is 41 more, so this is that, porch, I guess. Yeah, 41 more, so that was that adding a porch that extended into the yard.
Yeah, and the fact
house.
that it, you know, even with the proposed porches, it only comes to 22% of lot coverage. Right?
Okay, right. You commented that, and I agreed,
So that even though the porches seemed big, because they were, as far as, you know, size of the porches, they were fairly large. But the fact that there was so much yard and they had not taken up a lot of space. And I don't remember how close it was on the front yard, because that would be a front yard issue, right?
well, so, I think your description here is good. I think, John proposed a change and, if there was a discussion of it and we agreed to do it. So that's a good notation, I think, for 41 Morris. 18 Morris, what did we do? There we amended also.
I think it was a little bit difficult to determine what the amendment was because of the sound.
Let's see if we can remember.
So 41 Morris is almost right across the street from the other one, right?
Well, no, it's.
Or 18 Morris.
18 is, the one,
It's on the corner near the high school.
right. It's where the garage roof needed to be redone and they were gonna build out the bathroom a little on top. So you stated, not affect the perimeter.
I'm not so much sure about the. I am, it does not affect, it did not affect the pre-existing side yard setback. That was remaining unchanged. I'm not sure about the perimeter part. I may have used the term, but
Let's figure out here, what part of this concerns the change, the amendment? It looks like, EW followed up with MR's concern that it would be.
oh, I think perimeter of the house, I was mentioning, the face of the house. Right?
Oh, here, I remember now. Mary Ann suggested that the resolution ought to refer to the fact that the need to reconstruct the roof of the garage was necessitated by water damage.
Mhm.
So that,
That would
sounded
be
good.
one of it.
right, and that is here, but that's just the last part of this.
I think I might have had it in the beginning and I took it out because I didn't know.
Well, it's
how
here
to-
now. EW followed up with MR's concern to make an allusion to the reason for the construction. That was exactly necessitated by water damage. So that was Mary Ann's, exactly her point. So that was the change we agreed on. So really, that's the only part that you need to have in the minutes here is that one point about Mary Ann suggesting that we refer to the water damage as the reason for the roof.
That's right.
And then you can go on to say, we approved with that amendment, we approved the minutes with that amendment.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how would that, Eric Ward motion to accept resolution 2024-05 as amended and then the context, or is that?
Well,
fine?
it would be earlier. You could say, MR, suggested that it would, be appropriate to refer to the reason for the construction, which was water damage. And, the board agreed.
And I think the garage was built just a little bit higher in order, and when I say, with the construction materials, to make it a little bit higher.
Right, that forced them to be high, go higher.
But it's not significantly, I think it was like 6 inches or something like that.
Mary Ann's point was well taken, which is, in a sense, they didn't have a choice, because it was the damage that forced them to do that. It wasn't just choice.
Right.
So.
was not self-created.
Yeah,
That's what was
Self-created.
mentioned.
Your own damn fault.
So the
That's
minutes,
your own damn fault.
so yeah,
Yeah,
the
there you
other, so Abigail, the other references here to us saying things, you could delete.
Okay.
No need, because they don't involve amendments.
Right, I agree.
It never happened.
I never say things that are very important anyway.
So,
Never say much at all, John.
No, I'm usually quiet as a church mouse over here.
the two, then the 2 minutes are fine. It's just, saying that we approved that and who voted, that's fine. And then adjournment. So, yeah, so that, if you could do another version with those changes.
My name is, has an E on the end.
No,
And John's have an H.
stop.
Oh, wow. It does. I
I
don't
get
really care
confused by
that
him
much.
anyway, so.
I kind of like
Wait.
that better.
It's correct.
I wasn't born that way.
I mean, I swear this is autocorrect, y'all.
Oh,
It's not me.
oh,
It's down on the bottom of the page, right?
Oh, I copy and paste.
yeah.
Well, trying to help you out there.
Nope.
Even though myself.
But you can call me Mariana if you want, because,
Oh, so here, the bargain and sale deed, we just put that in here? I mean, why did they hand us that?
That's part of the application, It's part of the
Yeah.
application.
Okay.
I mean, would you prefer not to? have it?
No, I mean, I just, I guess when it comes to the fact that two people were fighting over that one sliver, it's good to have this, you know?
Hmm.
That's why it was a bargain and sale deed, you know?
Gonna start a whole new war
Yeah,
in town.
you get what
It's my
you
pie slice.
Right, I will make those adjustments and send them to you.
Yeah, if you email all of us, and then we'll take it up formally at the next meeting.
Mhm.
Approval.
I can't really do anything because I'm
Yeah, you
here,
have
but
to abstain.
I'll abstain. Oh, I get to, my first abstention.
Yeah,
Exciting.
Does anyone have other business?
no.
Okay.
Let's get out of here. No.
The master plan.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I move that we close the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thank